Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The time is now 9:30. My name is Mike Kelly. I am the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners for Johnson County, Kansas. I'd like to welcome you and call our meeting to order. It is Thursday, February 16th, 2023. Welcome. Would the clerk please call the roll of commissioners?
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers here.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Here.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick here.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Here.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Here.
And Chairman Kelly.
I'm here. All are present. We have a quorum. And at this time, I'd ask you to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all very much. At this time, I am going to ask you all to double check that your cell phones or any other noise-making device that you have is on silent. Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to turn to our public comment portion of the agenda for speakers to address the commission on any business which does not later appear on the agenda. While this is not a time to talk about action items that are later on the agenda, we ask that these comments still refer to matters of county business. If you wish to speak on an action item, we ask that you register in advance to speak on that particular item. If you do end up speaking on an action item or an item that is not pertinent to county business, you'll be asked to refrain from comments during this general comment section. When you come to the dais, please state your name and the city in which you reside. Comments are limited to 2 minutes. There's a clock that's going to appear that's going to assist you with that time limit. If you happen to go beyond the 2-minute time limit, I'm required to ask you to please conclude your comments. We also ask that members of the public please refrain from remarks that are offensive or impertinent or profane or slanderous. And please refrain from the use of any offensive or indecorous language that insults or demeans any person. If that kind of comment is made, we'll give you a warning. And if that kind of comment continues, we'll ask you to go ahead and step away from the microphone. At this time, when the clerk gives me the okay, we're going to go ahead and call those general public comments.
Recording in progress.
Chair, we're ready.
Thank you very much. All right, there are no notes from the record this morning, so we're going to go ahead and dive right into the business agenda. At this time, I'll ask if there's a motion to adopt the consent agenda as written. Commissioner Allenbrand.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda as written.
Second, Hanslick.
So moved by Commissioner Allenbrand, seconded by Commissioner Hanslick. I'll ask the clerk to go ahead and take the roll on the consent agenda.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Kelly.
Aye. I have 7 votes in favor and none against. Is that consistent with your count?
That's correct.
The consent agenda is adopted as written. Thank you very much. At this time, we are going to move on to action agenda item number 10, which is the consideration of an early termination agreement between the Board of County Commissioners of Johnson County and Evergreen Living Innovations Incorporated. To begin, I'd like to welcome our Assistant County Manager, Joe Connor, to provide a report. Mr. Connor.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Joe Connor, Assistant County Manager. So the item you have before you today is the termination agreement that was originally tabled by the BOCC on October 6th of 2022 and is now being brought back for your consideration. So the staff has been working for the past few years on transitioning out of providing nursing home services through our vendor, Evergreen Living Innovations. The termination agreement effectively transfers the nursing home service responsibility to Evergreen Living Innovations if approved. So what has changed from the last termination agreement? We've added some language to it that clearly outlines the transfer of resident responsibility to Evergreen. There will be a wind down and placement plan required to be submitted by Evergreen to safeguard the residents during their construction phase of their project. The maximum payment amount has been reduced to $23.8 million for construction of a new facility that will accommodate the residents they currently have in care. An initial $10 million payment is to be paid to Evergreen upon execution of this agreement, but the remainder will not be released until financing and building permits are secured by August 31st of 2024. And the current facility is to be vacated by Evergreen no later than August 31st of 2026. So we strengthened the original termination agreement that you had before you in October to put more structure to it and more deliverables from Evergreen. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Evergreen for being the provider of our services for the last 20-some years. They've been a good partner and provided good care for the residents for this nursing home service that the county is providing. So with that, I'd stand for any questions.
Thank you very much, sir. I believe we have some public comment on this matter, so we're going to go ahead and take those, and then we'll open our discussion. So we're going to start with virtual.
Chair, we're ready.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to welcome Linda Gallagher.
Sir, she is not on Zoom.
All right. Next, I'd like to welcome Jamie Milford.
I'm here.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Oh, thank you so much. My name is Jamie Milford. I've known Evergreen since March of 2018 when my husband was a resident. He was there for 2 years and then he died. But after that, I stayed on as a volunteer. And I wanted to talk about what a wonderful place Evergreen is. I'm there 3 or 4 days a week. It is like a family. And the main thing is the way Evergreen operates is kindness matters. And it does. The residents there are happy. They have a lot of fun. Yesterday when I arrived, there was a big parade going on for the chiefs. And of course, they're all celebrating. They have a world there that to them is their home. They don't have to get up at a certain time. They get to eat what they want. If they want egg salad sandwich for dinner, that's what they get no matter what's on the menu. We play bingo multiple times a week. We have good old days. We have movies. It's just a very happy place for them. And one of my best examples is a couple of weeks ago, I was told about one evening when some of the residents in one of the neighborhoods, and that's how Evergreen works, is by neighborhoods, got to talking out in the hall, and pretty much soon other residents joined them. And all of a sudden, it was a big gab fest, and they were having a wonderful time. But more importantly, it was the fellowship, it was getting to know each other. It's just altogether a happy place. And the basis for it, again, is because kindness matters. Evergreen always does that. It has always done that. And I know it will continue to. The support and help that you're giving them on this transition is great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Milford. I believe that's all the comments we have on Zoom, and so we'll move to in-person comments. First from Belinda Veerhalter. Veertaller. I apologize about that. I cannot be the first one, and I apologize. I'll probably not be the last.
First, not last, yep.
But
Yep.
thank you for your
Yeah, it
courtesy.
took me a few years too, so I get it.
Right,
Yes.
fair
So
enough.
I'm Belinda Veertaller, close.
Veertaller, there you go.
I am an employee of Evergreen. I just want to say thank you for the support that we've received in the past and to continue our mission of being resident-centered. I wouldn't have been working with Evergreen for over 6 years. Our mission is just amazing, and I want to continue that. So thank you. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for our support.
Thank you very much, Ms. Veertaller. Next, I have Keith Arnold. Okay, and Vicki Larson, probably not as well? Okay. Then Heather Pilkington.
Well, good morning, Commissioners. My name's Heather Pilkington, and I'm the administrator at Evergreen. It's a great privilege to serve there. And I just want to thank you for your support of our mission there and the work that we do, because your support and your vote today will allow us to continue the unique quality of care that we provide every day to the seniors that we serve here now and long into the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Next, Mr. Scott Heddy.
Good morning, Scott Heddy from Prairie Village. I'm here to oppose the early termination of the Evergreen contract. To give you some context about the marketplace, Evergreen does a fantastic job. There are 32 other competitors within a 10-mile radius of Evergreen. There's 3,200 beds, and there are 900 empty beds. And if the commission is worried about Medicaid residents being taken care of, there's plenty of opportunity for that in the marketplace. You don't need to spend $10 million, $13 million to buy a building for another competitor so that they have no occupancy cost, which gives them an advantage over everybody else. And all you're really doing is picking winners and losers. The marketplace will work out who's going to provide this. You shouldn't be in the middle of doing that. And I oppose it for that reason. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Scott. Next, I have Rodney, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the wrong name, or I'm having trouble reading the name, but Rodney.
Sorry, I had trouble writing it with this bum finger. So.
That's okay.
Rodney Whittington from Overland Park. I too oppose this, and for the main reason there was a request for proposals set out. At least 3 viable options were presented to the commissioners, and all of a sudden that was canceled with no notice, no communication to at least one of us that submitted a proposal. As Scott said, there are 900 empty beds that are easily places for 60 people from Evergreen to go. This is not a responsible way to spend Johnson County taxpayers' money. And for that reason, I oppose it, and especially for the reason that the RFPs weren't listened to at all. That's irresponsible. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney. Finally, I have Zish Margulies.
Good morning, Chairman and members. My name is Zish Margulis. I'm a registered nurse in the state of Kansas and other states. I am also the CEO of Recover Care. We provide services to many thousands of elderly Kansans. We have a good relationship with the state. And I am coming to oppose the early termination and proposal to spend $23.8 million on a new facility. Are the members of the council aware that there are currently no more than 60 residents at the Evergreen facility, and $23.8 million comes out to a staggering $396,000 per resident to build a brand new building that can easily be absorbed, the staff and the residents can easily be absorbed into one of the 900 empty beds that are currently open and operating with wonderful results in Johnson County. The very same kindness that Evergreen is known for can be transferred over with the staff and residents. Staffing crisis is dire. Anybody running a nursing home facility can tell you that our greatest asset today is staff. And if Evergreen has a staff and the residents, they can easily be absorbed into one of the many high-quality, well done and good outcome buildings that are currently in Johnson County. There was numerous RFPs put out. We as a company had a far more reasonable and affordable opportunity and RFP that we presented, where we can absorb the residents and the staff without spending close to $400,000. Can the members of this council all say that they've reviewed the RFPs and that they've come to the fiscal determination that's for the better of Johnson County taxpayers to spend close to $23.8 million when some of the RFPs were under $10 million? So for that reason, I oppose it. The quality of the care is the same, and we can do it for much cheaper.
Thank you very much, Adish. All right, that's all the public comments that we have. Mr. Connor is available here for questions. I do want to thank those folks from Evergreen who have come with us today to be available. We thank you for your partnership. It's been a long partnership, and it, I think, goes to the mission that we have as Johnson County to care for the most vulnerable in our community. And so I appreciate that. I also want to thank Mr. Connor and legal counsel for their work on this agreement. Obviously, this has been something that this board has been working on for a long time, well prior to my tenure on the county commission. But I do appreciate the changes to the language of the agreement that we've seen here, particularly the transfer of responsibility. So I want to thank you for that diligent work and open this up for questions and discussion amongst our commissioners. Commissioner O'Hara?
Thank you. Mr. Connor, excuse me, does the contract that we are considering, does it require a certain percentage of the beds in the new facility that Evergreen is proposing to be Medicaid beds?
Pardon me, it does not.
So there's no requirement for Evergreen to serve even one Medicaid bed in the new facility? Well,
Technically, you're correct. I would say that it's been their mission all along. They're maintaining their mission, and we're trying to remove ourselves from running a nursing center. And so it'd be up to them as an organization to figure out how they're going to make that work.
So our original purpose for continuing in our partnership or to be in the business of providing care was for Medicaid clients. Is that correct? That was our core mission.
Yes.
And so now we are proposing to spend $23.8 million to get out of a contract that will end in 2028. Is that correct?
I believe the end of 27.
And it began in 2008. It was a 20-year contract. Is that correct?
2007.
Okay, thank you. And they are required to vacate the building in 2026. So basically, we are buying out 2 years remaining on a contract for $23.8 million. We have no guarantee that any Medicaid clients will be served. And as far as a transfer of responsibility, if this falls flat on its face, and we have to, and patients have to be, or clients have to be transferred, it's still going to be on our watch that this has happened. Even though we have a piece of paper that says that Evergreen is responsible, in the end, we will continue to be responsible. And I am shocked. I am dismayed. As a businesswoman, I'm just utterly, I have no words for how disappointed I am that the county is going to be entering into this type of contract, especially since, as indicated by the public speakers, that we had other proposals. So what are we doing? Is it really for Medicaid, or is this for Evergreen? Obviously, it's not for Medicaid clients because we don't have one guarantee that one Medicaid client will be served.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got several comments. One is this used to be a Johnson County, I think they called it the old folks home. So this has been something that has been going on forever and ever. And there was a contract that was in place to take care of this, and it was way before any of us were sitting on this dais. And we do have, we have a contract to honor. And doesn't Evergreen have a non-for-profit? Aren't you a 501c? I was gonna.
This is Roger Templin, Chief Counsel for Evergreen.
Thank you. Good morning. First, let me express my apologies that Chris Osborne wasn't able to be with us today. He is our CEO. So on behalf of Evergreen, happy to answer any questions you have. Yes, Evergreen is a 501c3. Yes, endemic in its mission is a service to those folks who are in need, primarily Medicaid recipients. I don't expect that this board or any future board of Evergreen is going to take a different mission than that. That's what we've always been about. That's what makes this group unique. That's why we have had such a good partnership with the county. And so I fully expect we will do as much as possible, provide services to those most needing it in the county. That's what we've done. And so this does not inure to the private benefit of any private individual, unlike some of the others that you've heard from. This is a 501c3 that is a not-for-profit.
Couple other comments, that this building is in major distress. We've heard previous commissioners talk about the need of this building, and we've all been there, and we've seen how the issues that are involved in this building, and the building does need to come down. And if you add up, it's a lot of money, and I probably would have never signed a contract like that in the beginning, but that's me personally. If you take a look at the whole picture, this is a better option, and you're taking care of the residents, you're taking care of the employees, and I feel like that I do have a motion, Mr. Chair, when you're ready, that this is taking care of all those people in place.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Hanslick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of follow-ups from what Commissioner Allenbrand said. For many, many, many years, counties across the country have been responsible for the care of our aging and low-income folks. As she said, long ago, in fact, in Johnson County, what was called the Poor Farm was on the site of where the Sunset Building is and where the Evergreen and Public Health Building currently sit today. That was the site of the, quote, poor farm, and that's where people would go when they were older and had no resources, or younger and had no resources. So it's been a moral and ethical responsibility of the county for many, many years to care for these folks. And as we know from the history of Evergreen, part of that was the county, long before any of us were on this board, making an agreement to support this nonprofit as the arm of the county to provide those services to our aging, low-income residents. And, you know, we can look back and say maybe different decisions should have been made in the past, over the years, and there's nothing we can do about that now. But now it has been the prudent path forward is for the county to remove itself from the business of providing aging care. And the proposal before us, while maybe not ideal on every single level, is the best way for us to move in that direction and let Evergreen continue as a business and let them make their own decisions about their business model and remove the county from any further involvement or financial responsibility for that agency and for providing residential aging care. So I'm supportive of this, this proposal and look forward to continued success of Evergreen in the future, but without the county's involvement. So thank you.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions, if I could.
Go ahead.
And Mr. Temple, I'll direct this to you. And if you want to pivot to Mr. Connor, please feel free. But both of Mr. Connor led his presentation talking about the mission of Evergreen, and you reinforced that. That has been the historical mission, and I think they've been very diligent in trying to respect that. But technically speaking, or legally speaking, how is a mission? How could a mission be changed? Is there some legal requirement that once you absorb a mission, or not absorb, state a mission, that it can't change, or could it evolve?
Assume a mission can evolve. There could be changes. I suppose that's true.
Okay, but there's no legal requirement that once you set one, you have to stay?
No, other than the 501c3 requirements, that you're doing it as a not-for-profit, not to inure to the benefit of any private individual, which is very different than the way, a structure of a lot of other care facilities, including some that submitted proposals to you. This is a very different type of mission. And this particular organization and the way that it has been organized and has been run, I don't anticipate you're going to see a wholesale change on that in terms of a competitive enterprise. This group has always dedicated itself towards serving those most in need, and I completely expect it to continue.
Okay, very good. Second question, Mr. Chair. Mr. Connor, if this agreement is completed and accepted, and the monies are transferred for the building of the facility in whatever form Evergreen decides, who owns that asset at the end? Assuming Evergreen will go on forever, but realistically, there may be an end point for that organization or that facility. Who will own that? Will that be part of the not-for-profit, or does that revert to the county, or is there any?
You know, it'll be part of the non-for-profit. They're going to go and get their own financing, their own property. It'll be their building.
Okay, thank you.
I think it goes back to the comment that Commissioner Hanslick made, is that this was a mission that the county may have had 20 and maybe plus years ago.
100 years ago.
Yeah.
Long time
Well,
ago.
Specifically as it relates to this contract
yeah.
with Evergreen, but in the idea of being in this business, this is something that used to be a very staple part of county government. It is no longer, and if we want the opportunity to separate ourselves from that, then we need to be intentional about it. This agreement gives us that opportunity to do that. By requiring stipulations and continued monitoring, we remain part of that business by having reverters and things of that nature. There is no clear separation. We have so many things to do in this county, and a lot of opportunity to continue to serve residents. As this board, even prior boards, have expressed that this is not the way in which we best can serve, and therefore, by removing ourselves, we give ourselves the bandwidth and the opportunity to serve residents more effectively in those arenas where we are best fit to do so. So for those reasons, I'm supportive of this. And Commissioner Allenbrand, if you wanted to go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the board approve an early termination agreement between the Board of County Commissioners of Johnson County, Kansas, and Evergreen Living Innovations Incorporated, and approve the relocation and expenditure of general funds reserve, county-wide support fund in a maximum amount of $23.8 million for fiscal year FY 2023.
Hanslick, second.
So moved by Commissioner Allenbrand, seconded by Commissioner Hanslick. Seeing no further questions, or Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I've had the pleasure of serving on this commission for a number of years and have always been impressed by the work that Evergreen has done in this area. I would say it is not only a noble intent, it's a noble pursuit, and they have always done a good job offering innovative, as their title would often describe, attempts to help with the transition in life for the individuals that are residents there, and I respect that very much. I view this, though, that change is going to happen. The facility is changing, the contract is going to come to an end, and there will be change, and it will be difficult, whatever the change is. And there are two interests here, as I see it. The residents, which I think we all want to make sure have the best quality of life going forward as possible, and Eli, Evergreen Living Innovations, and the unique business model that they have developed in the servicing and training of professionals in the area and the servicing of residents. The challenge I have is the price tag and the guarantee that going forward, this will go on indefinitely, in perpetuity. And that is not captured in this current agreement. I think there are some other options that have been discussed by commissioners, were not considered in this pursuit, that were not fully researched, and until I see the results of that or have resolution of the results of that, I'm hesitant to support this as the solution, not just for the price tag, but also for the overall benefit to the residents and to Eli. So my vote will reflect that concern.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Thank you. Where do I begin? Yes, the building is in disrepair. It's because it's been neglected. This building was built in approximately 1996. I went out there and I took a tour of it. My background is construction. I was appalled. The roof looks, you're seasick when you look at the roof. It is absolutely irresponsible, in my opinion, for the county to have let this building fall in such disrepair. And in my opinion, it is because the county staff wants a new building for mental health. So here we go, costing $23.8 million to give to Evergreen so that they can vacate the building, so that we can then tear it down and then build a new mental health facility. This is not a prudent way of using taxpayers' dollars, which, by the way, $23 million would be close to 2 mills in reduction of property taxes for Johnson County. This is a cost for everyone. This is a decision to take $23.8 million and transfer it to Evergreen. We have a responsibility to these patients, these Medicaid clients. It is not in the contract. Yes, this has to go forward as a nonprofit, but their mission can change. And it is just absolutely mind-boggling to me that we are going forward with this, and I agree with everything that Commissioner Ashcraft has stated, and my vote will reflect that.
Commissioner Hensley, and then Commissioner Myers. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I take exception to the comments that the staff is trying to manipulate to get a new building.
Here, here.
In fact, what my understanding is that when that building was originally built, it was not built to the standards it should have been for long-term use. And we've been hearing for many years, before you were on the commission, Commissioner O'Hara, that that building was not going to be usable for a long period of time. So I think that's a mischaracterization to say that this is being manipulated. That has not been my experience. This building has been maintained within reasonable bounds, and it's time to move on from it. And secondly, the mission of Evergreen is we can't have our cake and eat it too. We can't say, well, we want to get out of the business of providing long-term care, but yet we want to continue to put restrictions on Evergreen. You can't have it both ways. You either say, we're done, here you go, you're on your own now, or we continue to stay in this business. We can't do both.
Thank you. Commissioner Myers?
Thank you, Chair. You know, this has been a very difficult subject for me. I've come to a place where I feel comfortable. I know that one thing that this whole board can agree on, I believe, is that the county does not need to be in the business of nursing homes. And that's what we're working towards, is relieving ourselves from this partnership and business. But I also agree, we have some moral and ethical duties that we need to perform in this situation. On Commissioner O'Hara's comments about the facility, again, I agree. There is a lot of work that needs to be done on that facility and probably could have been done in the past, and it's going to cost millions of dollars. And this is the option that I believe has been worked, and we've spent a lot of resources and time and tried to develop as many different situations as we can to solve this issue. And I think I'm to the point, well, I know that I am to the point that I believe this is the best option to take now at this time. And so I am also supportive of this item.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call the question.
Yeah, thank you. I would like, if it's okay with you, our county manager, Ms. Post Oak Ferguson, invite her to make a brief comment, and then I'll second your call.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Hanslick touched on it a bit, but I felt like I needed to respond to the statement about staff. So several years ago, when the project was approved by the board for the health building that was for public health and mental health, it was discussed with the board and decided at that time to have the adjusted appropriate level of maintenance to maintain the building and maintain operations. So that's what we've done. So I just wanted to clarify that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the question's been called and seconded at this time. I'd like the clerk to go ahead and take the roll on the motion.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
No.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, yes?
Commissioner Ashcraft.
No.
Commissioner Allenbrand,
Allenbrand, aye.
and Chairman Kelly.
Aye, I have 5 votes in favor and 2 against. Is that consistent with your count?
That's correct.
The matter passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Mr. Templin, and please pass along our best wishes to the folks at ELI. All right, on to item 11, which is resolution number 012-23 to adopt the Code of Ethics for the Johnson County government public officials. You all recall that we went through a committee of the whole last week to discuss these revisions to the Code of Ethics. I'd like to go ahead and also thank the subcommittee who's been working on these Code of Ethics for the better part of 2 years now, and thank them for their diligent efforts. At this time, I'm going to invite Ms. Trent to provide any comments in addition to what we heard at last week's Committee of the Whole, and then we can move forward with discussion and a motion. Ms. Trent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, you have before you, for your consideration, the Code of Ethics as was discussed, as the Chair had indicated at the previous CAL that was held on February 9th of this year. There are some revisions that were made throughout grammatical and spacing issues, just for clarification purposes throughout the document. Other than that, I stand for questions.
Thank you very much. And thank you. If you wouldn't mind just discussing briefly the revision as it relates to the applications of board, commissions, and committee applications, so everyone can have a clear understanding of that.
Yes. Chair and Commissioners, on February 9th, as we were reviewing through the Code of Ethics, there was a discussion specifically on page 6 under Section B on conflict of interest. Within that section, the draft that you reviewed on the 9th of February included that an SSI, which it's commonly known as a form for substantial interest that an individual may have that's from the state form, would be completed for both you as elected officials as well as appointed officials to county boards and commissions. At that time, we discussed what was contained in the SSI and that information would be public information. Originally, there was discussion of whether the SSI for appointed county board members could be confidential, and it cannot. That would be a public document. And if I recall, there was some discussion about concerns of making volunteers to fill out this form over and above, and although it is traditionally done at state level and different boards, there was concerns of the specific information. So on the dais, I provided a copy for you, another option for those 2 paragraphs, in which the elected officials, which you're used to filling out the SSI, would be completed and filed as you are required under state statute, under local conflict statute, but you would update that as needed, at the very least every April if needed, and if there are additional changes within that form. But for boards and commissions, you would complete an application form, a new form, on a yearly basis. And I also provided you at your dais a copy of the application form, which contains information that would be available to my office as we run conflict checks for each meeting. So if that's an option that you would prefer, that would be in the language that I disseminated in the draft on your dais. In addition, I did add, just to make sure it's clear for everybody, since it would change dramatically what's being asked of those boards, meaning from an SSI to appointed, I put the burden remains on each member of the county commission, as well as each appointed board member, to disclose any conflict of interest and abstain from considering debating on any issue connected with the conflict. So I added that language in addition to ensure that the burden is actually on each of you as appointed, not on our office to catch every conflict of interest, but we will be checking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Allenbrand and Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Trent. I appreciate you doing this. You know, these are volunteers that work, and some of these volunteers are already being bullied. And to have their financial information go in public, I think that it would be a hardship on them. And I appreciate your education and meeting with people and helping them recognize when there is a conflict. And I know that several members really appreciate that, so thank you.
Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Chair. I was one of the members that was concerned about what we had written and as far as the SSI was concerned, and felt like because of non-confidentiality, I did think that that should probably be removed. And I'm happy with the revisions, and I was one of the committee members that was involved in this, but I just have to say, I have to give kudos to Ms. Trent. She has been so good at everything that she's helped us as a commission, as a committee, in regards to these documents, and I appreciate all the work, and I think this revision is important, and so I will be ready to make a motion when it's time.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. Commissioner Hanslick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Trent, I appreciate the revisions, and I agree that asking these volunteers to complete an SSI might be reason for them to choose not to serve, which would be a shame. However, I'm wondering if you might be able to tell us a little more about how are those board and commission members made aware of the importance of their understanding what a conflict of interest is and disclosing that. And furthermore, I'm just wondering if on the application, we might want to have some sort of statements, because I don't see that on here, making people aware that it is your responsibility to disclose any conflict of interest and abstain from voting on any issue connected with that conflict.
Mr. Chair, if I may answer.
Yes, absolutely.
Commissioner Hanslick, excellent question. The attorneys in my office and myself have been going to each of the board meetings now and attempting to do trainings as needed and to amend bylaws to reflect any changes you make at the level related to conflicts of interest. But more specifically, we have an acknowledgement of the code of ethics that each board member signs. So they're acknowledging that statement, and we can include that if you would like, just to highlight that. But it is by their acknowledgement of being a board appointed and taking the oath that they would, that these standards would apply to them.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Hara?
Just a clarification, these applications would be public information?
Mr. Chair, yes, Commissioner O'Hara, these are public, and as a matter of fact, on the form itself, it indicates that these are subject to CORA. So when an applicant is filing to be considered on a board, they're made aware of it. It's right at the top of the form in an asterisk so that they're aware.
Thank you. Commissioner Ashcraft and Commissioner Hanslick?
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Trent, there are two options, as I understand it. There's I'll call it the SSI option and the new application option, if you'll allow me to describe it that way. Could you briefly give us a comparison of the relative merits of the two, both in terms of, and I think Commissioner Hanslick raises a valid point, the potential impact on people who are interested in serving, but also in terms of reviewing and processing their applications, their serving with the county. Could you give us a brief comparison or relative merits?
Please go ahead.
Sure, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Ashcraft, the SSI form, which is filed with the state, has additional information that is requested, specifically any ownership interests in any LLC. I submit to you that that information is important and relevant at times in order to understand what other businesses you may be affiliated with. However, when we have on the form employment, we could amend the form to include anything that's taxable income, which would pull that up for me to alert our staff when we're checking conflicts. But at this point, the main item will be the difference in ownership interest in other businesses. The SSI goes a little further also, kind of drilling down into compensation that is of a certain dollar amount. It gets into your spouse or significant other or partner and what they're making. So that goes a little bit more expansive than what's in the application. So those are the uniqueness, if you will, between the two forms. The application simply gets into your experience and your affiliation with organizations. So does the SSI. So I think those are your main distinctions.
Commissioner Ashcraft, for your follow-up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Trent, thank you. That was a good clarification. A question, though. Not all volunteer boards are the same. Some have, I would say, near quasi-judicial administrative oversight, substantial decision-making authority for some. Others are little more than advisory. I'm not trying to be pejorative. They're more advisory, relaxed in their role. So the question is, do we have to have just one application process for all, or could we differentiate that based on the level of impact the volunteer board member may have on decisions and activities affecting Johnson County?
I mean, Ms. Trent, you're welcome to. I'll just say, in my opinion, if we start getting into subjectivity as to which board is impacting, having a fiscal impact or not, it could change based on the year, based on somebody's position, that could change. A standardized application, I think, would be important just for the longevity, but also for staff and the amount of time and resources that it would take determining which boards needed which applications and writing those applications and then amending those applications. Just sounds like it's not a really prudent use of resources, in my opinion, but I'll allow Ms. Trent to comment on the question.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Ashcraft, if I could add on to what the chair said, in looking at all of the boards, exception of Parks and Rec and Library, those boards are all considered advisory. They make a recommendation that comes to this board for your final approval. So essentially, the county boards that you're operating on, they're advisory, but they do, you are correct, they are making decisions that could have an effect on appeal related to how things are handled. Again, the burden is on them to make sure that we're having these dialogues about conflicts of interest. And I have reached out to counsel for Parks and Rec and Library, Fred Logan. They are comfortable with whatever, I don't want to represent because I don't think he spoke to the individual members, but they are comfortable with whatever the board recommends. They do have their own conflict of interest that they discuss regardless. So I don't think we're going to see much difference in process and how these boards are processing conflicts of interest. It's just going to be more involvement of the legal department and meeting with boards and educating and making sure those are disclosed.
Mr. Chair, one follow-on then. So, Counselor, where would you put the planning boards? Are they in the same category as Parks and Rec, or are they in the other category?
If I was to decipher between the two, between an application and an SSI form, I probably would recommend, if I was going down that, that will be a challenge to keep separating these, but yes, but I would probably want an SSI form for all planning and zoning, because they do decide quasi-judicial matters that come up to this board. But I would make that more expansive, because there's other boards too that are making decisions that are having impacts. So for fairness, it's more, in fairness, either, in my recommendation, it's either the application or the SSI form for all boards, appointed boards.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate Commissioner Ashcraft bringing up the differences in the boards and commissions in terms of their authority. But I think to me this conversation in part goes to the larger issue of making sure that all of the commissioners understand the roles and the responsibilities and the authority of the various boards and commissions to which we are appointing people. And I've really been grateful for Ms. Trent and her team helping to educate the individual boards and commissions on what their roles and responsibilities are. I think we have some people that are appointed to boards and commissions who are very experienced. They know how these processes run. They know their responsibilities and the boundaries of those responsibilities. And then we also have folks appointed that have never served in that capacity, and at times do not understand the boundaries of their responsibilities. So I think continuing that education to each board and commission is so critical. I mean, I've even suggested we have some kind of consistent board training for anyone who is been appointed to a board and commission, because in my experience, sometimes it wastes a lot of time when folks are not clear why they are really there. So to me, that's the larger issue. And unfortunately, as you pointed out, there are times when an SSI would be really helpful. But at this point, I'm comfortable not requiring that. That may change in the future. But again, I encourage you to please continue to provide that education to boards and commissions so that we know that everyone's on the same page about why they are there. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Ellenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to make 3 points. First of all, I want to point out that Ms. Trent and her staff have been going to all the boards. And from what I've seen, that's going to be ongoing, and kudos to you by coming in and making all of us accountable for our appointments as well. And the other thing I want to point out is that Ms. Sater, when she's sending around the people that are being appointed, she also sends around the resume for us to look at. I did reach out, you got Johnson County Library, Parks and Rec, you've got the airport, and every single person that I've talked to, and I've seen it myself serving on the board, if they have ownership, or even if they're on the airport board and have a plane there, they excuse themselves from voting. And I think some of it in planning and zoning was there had not been any training. We haven't been following the statute, so you're getting things up to speed, and I commend you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Myers, you want to go ahead and make your motion? Everyone's had an opportunity to speak. We haven't called the question yet, but I want to get a motion on the record. Commissioner Myers, you said you wanted to make the motion?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, do we have a motion on the floor for
We're
the
working on it.
resolution?
Not yet.
Okay, because that has to go first before Myers.
I'm invited to make a motion on the resolution.
I move, I don't have that motion in front of me here.
Oh, wait.
I move that the Board of County Commissioners approve Resolution Number 012-23, adopting the Code of Ethics for Johnson County Government Public Officials.
Ellenbrand, second.
So moved by Commissioner Myers, seconded by Commissioner Allenbrand. Commissioner O'Hara, do you have another question or comment?
Yes, I have a question for our Chief Legal Counsel. So it's brought up that in prior commissions that things such as oath of office and disclosure, conflict of interest, and this, and a myriad of many issues were not being, we weren't doing it. We were not, procedurally, we were not correct. And what was the impetus for the county to start taking stock of this, these errors? I believe it was because of the public asking the questions. Is that correct?
Ms. Trent, if you want to, you're
Chair,
welcome to.
it started with the planning and zoning boards and controversial issues, and citizens brought forward an inquiry, a simple record request, which then alerted us to an issue that was occurring among the boards and commissions.
So I just want to point out that I am very pleased that public participation has uncovered these deficiencies that we have had in the past. And so we should not be characterizing these actions of the public as bullying our board members. It's simply that we were not adhering to correct procedures in the past. So I am very grateful to the public, and I think that the path forward is a very good one, and I will be supporting the motion.
Well, first of all, thank you. I don't know that there's been an allegation of bullying that's been made, but I want to just get us off, or get us back to the larger view of these code of ethics. We've been kind of narrowed down today in our discussion regarding boards and commissions, which is great. But the overall bigger picture, this being for county government public officials, these haven't been updated in 35 years, and it is time to do so. And I appreciate that there was diligent work by a committee and by legal counsel to go through that process so that we can have clarity on the expectations, because there is not a member on this commission that doesn't want to comply with regulations, that doesn't want to be open and transparent and ethical in their practices. Our past code of ethics allowed for some very subjective interpretations thereof. And so to provide that clarity gives us the assurance that we can understand what conduct that we can hold ourselves to, and that the public can have expectations of us moving forward in the expectation that we will provide diligent, honest, and forthright public service with in a means of which can be understood and accountable. So I think it's a much better document than the one we had 35 years ago. I think time will tell if there's additional clarity that's necessary here, but I think this is definitely a step in the right direction, and I'll be supporting it. And I'll invite Commissioner Allenbrand to make one final comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize, but Ms. Trent, one of the things that impressed me upon hiring, when you were hired, that this was one of your missions, because it had been kind of an issue with me when I first came on board as commission, just looking at the statutes and what was being done. So I do want to clarify that. So
That was brought up during my interview. I
yes,
do remember
thank you.
the questions.
I just wanted you to say I always appreciate public comment, but that was one of your number one things to do. So
Commissioner Myers.
Yes, I just want to make sure that we're doing this correctly, but on the motion, do I still need to move to strike the information that we're adding into the document?
Right, because you had on your agenda, for the public to see the one draft, and so I want to make sure of transparency. Normally, I would have, if we had done this in advance, would have substituted, but I think it's best to read it so that the public has notice of what you're changing in those two paragraphs. So you have a long talking part.
So, Chair, I do have a motion in order to make that happen. but it is lengthy because I was going to ask if I could do it with as written or provided, but it sounds like I need to read it all, but when all discussion and when you're ready for that motion, I'm ready.
We'll go ahead and take that amendment.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I move to strike Article 4, Section 3, Paragraph 8, 1 and 2 on page 6 and replace with the following. A conflict of interest would include any circumstances under the public official has substantial interest as defined by KSA 75-4301 or has pecuniary interest in a matter and public official derives some direct and tangible personal and professional benefit from particular resolution of the matter. All members of the Board of County Commissioners shall complete a state statement of substantial interest known as the SSI, which is attached hereto and incorporated herein and marked Exhibit A and electronically located
You can just say online.
online. All appointed members of a board or commissioner shall complete a county board or commission appointment application which is attached hereto and incorporated herein and marked Exhibit B and electronically located online. And 2, a member of the Board of County Commissioners shall file the SSI with the Secretary of State and update the form every year in April or whenever a new substantial interest occurs. An appointed member of a board or commissioner shall provide an updated county board or commission appointed application to the chief counsel or disagree and update the appointed board or commission application every year in April or whenever any new information occurs. Chief counsel or designee shall review all SSI and county board or commission appointment applications of public officials for completeness. If the SSI or county board or commission appointment application is not completed or filled out completely, Chief Counsel shall notify the chair and members of the Board of County Commissioners of potential noncompliance of a public official with the county's Code of Ethics. The burden remains on each member of the Board of County Commissioners and each appointed member of a board or commissioner to disclose any conflict of interest and abstain from considering, debating, discussing, or voting on any issue connected with a conflict of interest.
Hanslick, second.
So the amendment is made by Commissioner Myers. Thank you. A second by Commissioner Hanslick. If there are not any questions or concern on the amendment, I'll ask Commissioner Ashcraft, do you have a question on the amendment?
Or concern.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Chairman, just an observation. I will support this, but I would suggest that the SSI approach really should be considered more broadly than just for county commissioners. But having said that, I understand the administrative challenges that may exist, but I'm not convinced that we should in any way relax our due diligence. So that may put more of a burden on the chief counsel, but I know she'll be up for it.
Okay, thank you. Without seeing others, I'll ask the clerk to take the roll on the amendment.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Kelly.
Aye, I have 7 votes in favor and none against. Is that consistent with your count?
That's correct.
Okay, so back to the motion as amended. I'd like to call the question on that motion. Without seeing any further questions or comments, I'll ask the clerk to take the roll on the motion as amended. Commissioner Ashcraft?
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I will support this, but I will offer, I am a little bit concerned that this new code of ethics may be somewhat overburdening to us as we go forward, primarily because of the level of specificity on some of the issues. And I'm looking specifically at Article 4, Section 3, when you try to outline all of those options and ideas that may be, talk about administrative burdens, sorting through that over time may be a challenge. But having said that, Mr. Chairman, I will support the effort.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am so pleased that we are looking at this new code of ethics. When I first was elected and I looked at it, what was apparent to me was that it was written in such a way that the public had no idea to what standards we were holding ourselves. And I think the new and revised code of ethics, first and foremost, provides the public with guidelines as to what they can expect from us in terms of ethics. And it also provides an understandable, clear path for how any complaints are dealt with. So it's just such a huge improvement over the old one, and so much more transparent, and I'm really glad that we've gone through this very lengthy process to come to this point of approving it.
Thank you.
Hopefully.
Commissioner Fast.
Yeah, I didn't, during committee meetings, agree with the specificity. I thought it was way over regulatory hoops and obstacles, and in the end, we're accountable to our constituents, and I didn't understand why you put that in, but I said my piece during our meetings, and I just think that I think when you have too many hoops, barriers, it doesn't get followed. I complain about this at the state level all the time. I don't know why you want to be micromanaging elected officials, which some of it feels like that, but I will be supporting it.
All right, at this time, I am actually calling the question and seeking a second thereon.
Hanslick.
Give it to Hanslick, the second. At this time, I invite the clerk to take the roll on the motion as amended.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes, sorry.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Kelly.
Aye, I have 7 votes in favor and none against. Is that consistent with your count?
That's correct.
All right, the motion's adopted, and thank you very much, Ms. Trent. Next, item number 12 is resolution number 013.23, consideration of adopting the revised Human Resource Policy 401 to be effective today. Ms. Trent is going to provide us a brief presentation or be available for questions, as well as Tiffany Henschel from our Human Resources Department. Ms. Trent.
Thank you, Chair. Before you today, you have a policy that is to be amended, that specifically Human Resource Policy 401, to reflect the changes that you made in the previous adoption of the Code of Ethics that you just approved, that the Code of Ethics now applies to elected officials and appointed county board and commission members. So the old ethics from 1988 actually had it applied to elected officials such as the sheriff and DA, which you do not have the authority over, and employees. And so a decision was made, as you know, through the subcommittee and through our COW discussions on February 9th, that to separate these two and to amend the current human resource policy to outline or reflect those separation and what's applied to employees. In addition, the human resource policy would apply to appointed officials by the board, by you as BOCC, and by the sheriff's office. And as such, within this policy, there was outlined that if the appointed official, myself or your employee, the auditor or county manager, needed an exception to the policy, that would go through the chair. And if the sheriff, through his undersheriff, needed an exception to the policy, which may be a little bit more stringent or stricter because of the accessibility of staff to vendors and other items, that we would go through the sheriff for those exceptions. So that was mainly the overview, but essentially this policy just separates the two. At a future date, the county manager's office right now is working through a leadership team and human resources to develop procedure once this is adopted. And I believe that that would be shown to you before signing so that you have an idea of what would be provided to the staff at that time. Leadership team has met, have had preliminary discussions. I think it went really well with everyone. I think the main standard from what you see in this policy and direction is the appearance of impropriety, applying a reasonable person standard, and how that would trickle down, if you will, through gift policies and what staff is seeing. Just to clarify, staff sees in an employee level, more different types of issues are occurring that we would see than at your level as elected officials and as appointed board members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Trent. Well, I don't see any questions at this time, but I'm going to go ahead and make the motion that we approve resolution number 013-23, adopting the revised Human Resource Policy 401, ethics, conducts, and performance expectations identified in attachment A thereto, to be effective as of February 16th, 2023.
Myers, second.
Chair made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Myers. Questions or comments? I'll ask the clerk to take the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Kelly.
Aye. I have 7 votes in favor and none against. Is that consistent with your count?
That's correct.
The resolution is passed. Thank you very much, Ms. Trent. This time, I'd like to move on to item number 13, which is authorizing a project increase in use of reserves for the new Lenexa Med Act project.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners.
Good morning very much. We have Leslie Friedel with us, and I believe Brian Pedig is also here to answer questions if we need. Ms. Friedel, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and giving us some brief remarks, we'd appreciate it.
Okay. I'm Leslie Friedel with Budget and Financial Planning, and we're here today to request $1,662,030 of general fund reserves to use for the Lenexa Med Act project, and then to transfer $2,912,030. And the difference is due to the fact that originally we reduced the project for the property acquisition. And now we need, we're requesting from you to fully fund the advance and to provide $1.6 million of additional funds due to changes in the property was a different size, changes in programming once they purchased the property and some other things, and inflation, of course. So.
Thank you very much, Ms. Friedel. We do have one public comment on this issue, so at this time, I'd ask that you briefly step aside, and I invite Galen Van Horn to give a public comment on this topic.
Galen Van Horn, and I live on the east side of Lenexa, so I'm thrilled to see the city showing some, we'll have some presence there, which we have not. I'm late to the party, but it is my understanding that the police department there at Monrovia and 87th will be demolished, and a fire station will be built there. I'm questioning if there was any consideration at all to adding the Med Act to that fire station. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Van Horn. Okay. At this time, I'd like to open up to questions and comments to either Ms. Friedel or Mr. Pedig regarding the project increase in use of reserves. Commissioner O'Hara?
Yes, thank you. I'd like staff to respond to the question as to whether this was ever considered or if this project was already approved by the board and had gone forward, and that this was prior to that this occurred after this? I don't know. Can you kind of give me a timeline as to the city and our decision on Med Act, and if there was an opportunity for cooperation, or if our decision had been made prior to the fire station?
Brian Pedig, Interim Director of Facilities. Yes, there was a lengthy timeline. I'm going to look to Paul and see if he's aware of any conversations with the fire and police, if you have any comments on that.
Paul Davis, Director of Department of Emergency Services. And when we began looking at this, this property some years ago, 2018, 2019, we did engage City of Lenexa and the fire department. But at that time, when we needed to move forward, there were no plans for the fire station to be built at the current location where that deconstruction is going to occur. We were looking at about 5 years out. And because of our need, the City of Lenexa asked us to get out of where we are now. We needed to move a little bit quicker. So we were looking for the most cost-effective option.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. All right, other questions or comments regarding this item? Seeing none, is there a motion? Commissioner Hanslick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to authorize an increase of $1,662,030 for the Lenexa Med Act capital project, bringing the new total project authorization to an amount not to exceed $5,520,030, and the reallocation and use of fiscal year 2023 general fund reserves in the amount of $2,912,030 to transfer to the Public Building Commission for the Lenexa Med Act capital project.
So moved by Commissioner Hanslick,
Allenbrand, second.
seconded by Commissioner Allenbrand. Commissioner O'Hara?
Yes. Clarifications on the increase. I think my understanding is inflation and then expanding of the amount of area that was being remodeled. Is that correct?
I believe that the building that was purchased was approximately 3 times the size of the original building, and so we were able to do some different programming and functions that we weren't able to. It was a good purchase, a good price, and so that's what happened in part. And then also some changes to programming for the housing involved of the Med Act personnel because of changes due to COVID, et cetera.
Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and take a roll call on the motion from Commissioner Hanslick.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Kelly.
Aye. I have 7 votes in favor and none against. Is that consistent with your count?
That's correct.
All right. Motion passes. Thank you very much. And next, Ms. Friedel will be staying right there as we consider approving an increase for the Johnson County Courthouse Design Build Capital Project and an amount of increase of $4,366,343. Ms. Friedel?
Hi again, this is Leslie Friedel with Budget and Financial Planning. Good morning to all of you. We are requesting the money, almost $4.4 million, to finish the 3 additional courtrooms and then also to take care of a few other minor items that have been discovered since occupying the building. The total project cost will be approximately $220 million, and we need this space completed to account for the 3 new judges that were recently added to the district court.
Thank you, Ms. Friedel. Just for clarification's sake, this funding comes from Public Safety Sales Tax number 3?
Yes, I should have made that clear. Yes, the funding for this will be coming from Public Safety Sales Tax 3. We budgeted $4.9 million this year for potential use for capital, and so this is actually within what we budgeted for the current year.
All right. Thank you very much. Questions or comments on this one? Commissioner Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I am reticent to support this simply because when the courthouse was being advertised to be built, It was based upon certain caseload projections and staffing. And if you compare with the projections that were offered when the courthouse was being promoted, the projections for the number of cases is a full 20% less than actual. And if you actually compare to the number of cases that are handled by the court today to what they were handled by in 2008, it's over 20% reduction. So we actually have more judges already before the additional 3 that were added, and we have fewer overall cases. So I am reticent to support this unfunded mandate by the courts.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did reach out to the DA, and a lot of the reasons that their court system was down was because of COVID, and they're now getting back up on speed. And I think one other thing that we're going to have to address, and I apologize, Commissioner Fast, I did find out there is a lot of issues with the handicap parking and parking around the courthouse that we're going to have to address in the future. But I just wanted to share with Commissioner Ashcraft that that's what I was told, so.
Commissioner Fast.
Yes, I met with Mr. Pedic on some of the issues on accessibility for people with mobility challenge, and we can work together with them.
Yeah.
And this does not talk about that, so that's a whole separate issue. So I just want to make that note.
All right, thank you very much. Is Ms. Brewer available, our Supervisor Courts?
She is on Zoom.
Okay. Ms. Brewer, are you with us?
Yes, Chairman Kelly, thank you. Laura Brewer, District Court Administrator. I appreciate the opportunity to join by Zoom. The roads in the south part of the county are not very pleasant this morning. Chief Judge sends his apologies. He is in the middle of a jury trial today, or he would be here as well. I just wanted to speak to the fact that I would echo what Mr. Howe has said about the projected number of cases. There's still a backlog of cases in the district attorney's office, is my understanding, that we're trying to get caught up on. And additionally, when the National Center of State Courts did a study indicating our need for new judges was actually 9, and we were lucky enough to get 3 from the state. So our caseloads were well over what they should have been, even a number of years ago when we were looking at those projections. And I think what's important to look at is what we're trying to do is really speed up access to justice. And so with our new judges, while we may be processing the same number of cases, we hope to process them more quickly and get people to trial and resolution of their cases in a more efficient manner. 2 of the 3 courtrooms that we're requesting are jury trial courtrooms. That's going to allow us to increase the number of trials that we can run on a weekly basis. The addition of 3 judges has already helped with that. We're increasing our jury trial numbers, calling in more jurors each week. We do have judges right now who are sharing courtrooms. We're doing a lot of shuffling around to make do with what we have, and we'll appreciate your support in getting these new courtrooms built out. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have as well.
Ms. Brewer, I appreciate that, and I will say that it's an important endeavor for our court system to be able to have the resources available to make sure that folks do have their constitutionally mandated speedy trial right respected. And even those not in the criminal system but are in the civil system know that the access to resolution of cases in the court system is a lengthy process, and in creating opportunities through which we can speed up that process helps all the businesses in Johnson County as well. So making those courtrooms available, I think, is an important step that we can take that's within this public safety sales tax and was anticipated, and make sure that we get these new judges their own courtrooms. Commissioner O'Hara?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is J.E. Dunn is going to be the contractor on this?
Yes, that will be considered under the PBC, as it is a PBC facility, and so the contract is with the Public Building Commission at Johnson.
And I just since we have been going through the conflict of interest and code of ethics, I just want the public to understand that our chairman does have a past relationship with J.E. Dunn as a partner in Climate Action Casey Partners. I know that he resigned in the end of December, but just that we need to understand how these associations continue to be, even though we have adopted these code of ethics and conflict of interest. Thank you.
Commissioner O'Hara, I appreciate that you continue to bring that up, even though I believe it was just last week, you were told by by our chief legal counsel that that did not constitute a conflict. Furthermore, this is the 8th revision, I believe, that we're going to be asked to make in the Public Building Commission regarding this contract that Jay done. So while I appreciate your robust work to make sure that all the conflicts are stated, I'd also appreciate your courtesy to not cast aspersion against me when you know that it's not a conflict.
Thank you,
very
Mr.
much.
Chairman.
No,
This
I'm
is
not recognizing you at this time. Commissioner Hanslick, I believe, had a question.
Oh, I just wanted to say I'm very much in support of this, having worked at our county's domestic violence agency and knowing the importance of speedy access to to justice is critical, and at times it can be life-saving timing if we can get people through the courts as quickly as possible. So I'm very much in support of this.
Very good. Commissioner Allenbrand, do you have a motion?
I have a motion if you're ready.
Please.
Oh, and now I have the wrong, let's see. I move to authorize an increase of $4.366343 for the Johnson County Courthouse Design Building Capital Project, bringing the new total project authorization to the amount not to exceed $219,932,002.
$2.
$2.
Second, Hanslick.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to... The motion's been made by Hanslick, or Allenbrand, the second made by Hanslick. I'd like to call the question on this matter. Is there a second for that? Is there a second to call the question?
Don't we have, point
Second,
of order?
Hanslick.
Thank you
Point of
very
order.
much.
Point of order. Don't our order rules require that after the motion, that we each have an opportunity to make a statement?
No, they do not. The rules require that everyone has an opportunity to comment before the question can be called. You've had an opportunity to comment. The question's been called and seconded. I'd like the clerk to please take the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
No.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Kelly.
Aye. I have 6 votes in favor and 1 against. Is that consistent with your count?
That is correct.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to staff on this one, to Ms. Friedel and Mr. Pedig. Next, and finally, under the action agenda is item number 15. And item number 15 is considering an agreement with Evergreen to relocate electric utilities for the 199th Street Shoulder Safety and Structural Improvement Project between Clear Road and US Highway 169 at a cost not to exceed $183,674. Ryan Sims from Public Works is back with us. Mr. Sims, good morning.
Good morning. Ryan Sims with Public Works. As mentioned last week, this utility agreement with Evergy is necessary to relocate approximately 2.5 miles of power poles in advance of the road safety improvement project on 199th Street between Clare Road and 169 Highway, which we anticipate to begin construction later this spring. The existing poles are relatively close to the road, and we need to create a clear zone free of obstructions, move the poles further out in advance of the future road improvements with the ditch work. We have a city-county agreement with Spring Hill to participate financially in this project. None of the electric facilities do fall within Spring Hill city limits. They're all within the unincorporated. But for this project, the majority of them are within the existing county right-of-way. So the county only bears about 36% of the relocation costs. The remaining 64% is Evergy's cost. So if there are any additional questions at this time, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sims. Ms. O'Hara.
I was contacted by one of my constituents out on 199th Street, and the question was, do you know how or who got Comcast to expand area around Spring Hill? And I did a little research, and I believe it is the city of Spring Hill that was responsible for that. And the people out on 199th Street are very thrilled to have that service. So just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Commissioner Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to clarify that I also helped work on Comcast out in the, and it's also available in the unincorporated area. So just FYI, Ms. O'Hara, that you can take it into the unincorporated areas. And I do have a motion, Mr. Chair, when you're ready.
Go ahead.
I move to approve an agreement with Evergy to relocate electric utilities necessary for 199th Street shoulder safety and structural improvement project between Clare Road and US 169 Highway at a cost not to exceed $183,674.
Hanslick, second.
So moved by Commissioner Allenbrand, seconded by Commissioner Hanslick. Other questions or concerns? All right. At this time, we'll go ahead and call the roll on the question.
Commissioner Fast. Aye. Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Kelly.
Aye. I have 7 votes in favor and none against. Is that consistent with your count?
That's correct.
The agreement is approved. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to move on to reports and communications, first from our county manager, Penny Post Oak Ferguson.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Good morning. We have 4 items this morning. First, as a recipient of federal CDBG funds, we are required to have a citizen participation plan, which includes a public hearing. The plan is intended to provide opportunities for participation, openness, and the freedom of access to information through each stage in the process. It encourages participation of those with low and moderate incomes, social service providers, and public agencies in areas where the use of CDBG funds are being proposed. There will be a public hearing on March 8th to gather input to assess the community development and housing needs. New this year is an opportunity to provide input online. Staff will use this feedback to propose plans and programs to meet those needs in cooperation with county departments, cities, and other public and private partners for consideration by the BOCC for fiscal year 2024. Johnson County is promoting the public hearings and needs assessment online survey in its latest episode of the JOCO On the Go podcast, as well as media relations, web, and social media. Leslie Davis is in attendance if there's questions.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the subject may be broached under commission comments, but as you may know, Commissioner Hanslick and I, and maybe Commissioner Myers, I can't remember who all was there, but we had a meeting with representatives from CDBG in Washington this past week, and it may relate to this topic, and I think Commissioner Hanslick is trying to schedule a meeting with Mr. Leipzig, is that right, to talk about this program. So I don't know if it'll affect this plan. I know it's required, but I look forward to a robust opportunity when the new plan is developed, or as the new plan is being developed. So thank you
very much. Commissioner O'Hara.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this in conjunction with the January 19th Biden administration new rule on each community to come up with a plan to address affordable housing? Is this connected, or is that another?
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
I will
Okay.
ask Jay Leipzig to come forward and
Okay.
respond.
Mr. Leipzig.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Jay Leipzig, the Planning, Housing, and Community Development Director.
Can you speak up, please?
Sorry, Commissioner. To directly answer your question, this is a separate item. They will have additional opportunities when we prepare our consolidated plan to incorporate the January 19th directive on the proposed notice that has been sent. They're still soliciting comment on that, but that would be a separate item. And then to address the Commissioner Hanslick was referenced with setting up a meeting. We're in the process of doing that, and we'll be able to provide that information.
Go ahead.
So my question is, by accepting these federal funds, is this undermining our local control as far as zoning and land use issues?
Commissioner O'Hara, I do not believe it does. We still have the ability to do our own impediments for fair housing, but this is a separate item. This is strictly the citizen participation plan.
Okay.
the hearing on that item. So there'll be further discussion about that when we bring forward the consolidated plan.
But that,
Commissioner Hanslick?
Yeah, I just had a technical kind of question because I was asked by a couple constituents. There is, on Facebook, ETC Institute has posts about a 2023 community survey, and I didn't know, is it this citizen participation plan, or is it something else? And we may have to get more information offline, but I've had some people confused because generally our community survey is sent to a limited random sample of people, but this survey on Facebook appears to be open to anyone who wants to respond. So I'm a bit confused about that.
Commissioner Hanslick, Jay Leipzig again, to address your question directly, that's a separate survey, a separate item together. That's an entirely different.
That's not this one then?
Yeah, no.
Okay, thank you.
Can you, I've had people ask me too, and can you tell us what is this survey? It has many questions that are not normally on the survey that we acted upon.
Well, since this isn't part of this item, I can maybe follow up on that directly and find out more information about what you're talking about and then circle back with you.
Thank you. We'd appreciate that. Ms. Bostock-Ferguson, if you wanted to continue with your report, please.
Thank you. The next two items are related to TTV, or Treasury Taxation and Vehicles Department. The first is, in order to conduct an annual staff training, Johnson County Treasury Taxation and Vehicles will be closed to the public on President's Day, Monday, February 20th. The offices will resume normal hours on Tuesday, February 21st. This has been done in the past as well, just so you're aware of that background. The offices are to be closed include Olathe Motor Vehicle at 782 North Ridgeview Road, Mission Motor Vehicle at 6000 Lamar, Suite 100, Treasury Taxation County Clerk Register of Deeds Services at 111 South Cherry Street, Suite 1200. And there's more information in your packet. Tom Franzen, Director of TTV, and Greg Baldwin, Chief Deputy Treasurer, are here if there's questions.
All right, thank you. Moving on.
Okay, next one, Johnson County Motor Vehicle intends to increase efficiency, improve the resident experience, and reduce delinquent tax collections by transitioning the title drop-off service back to a dealer fleet service beginning April 3rd. A memo is attached with more information, and again, both Tom Franzen and Greg Baldwin are here if there's questions. Okay.
Go ahead.
And last item is New Century. We are happy to share that Johnson County's New Century Commerce Center has landed a new certification. The Kansas Department of Commerce has designated the New Century Commerce Center as a Kansas certified site. The business park is the only site in the Kansas City metro area and the 9th site in the state to earn this designation. Because industry certifications are important to real estate consultants when making site selection decisions, the Johnson County Airport Commission, Evergy, Southwest Johnson County Economic Development Corporation strategically partnered with the Kansas Department of Commerce to attain the Kansas Certified Site designation. There's more information in your packet, and Aaron Otto, the Executive Director of the airport, is in attendance today if you have more questions. And if not, Chairman, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to Mr. Otto and the airport on that new designation. All right, at this time, I'm going to invite Mr. Mark Dapp to provide us a legislative update as we near turnaround in the Kansas State House. Mr. Dapp, thank you very much and welcome this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned, we are at day 28 of the Kansas legislative session. A week from tomorrow is turnaround day. That is one of the large hurdles that we will clear in the legislature. For most committees, all bills must be passed out of at least one chamber by a week from Friday. So what we will see is a flurry of activity at the committee level between now and next Tuesday, and then both the House and the Senate will be on the floor all day Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to clear that turnaround day. That is effectively killing 2 of the 9 lives that the bills often have in Topeka, so we'll know much more about the prospects of particular legislation that we're tracking. Notable so far is just the sheer number of bills that have been introduced up to this point. We have roughly 700 bills that have been introduced between the House and the Senate. We're expecting roughly 300 more to come before turnaround, setting somewhat of a record for nearly 1,000 bills in the first year of biennium. A couple of important topics that we've been tracking throughout the session. The first is on Social Security relief that has been mentioned multiple times. SB 33, which would exempt Social Security benefits from state income tax for those making more than $75,000 a year. That cap is currently a cliff at $75,000. It was advanced out of Senate Tax Committee and awaits a vote before the full Senate. There are also two different state income tax proposals that in the House, it is HB 2061, which will provide a 5% income tax rate for individuals and corporations, and the Senate bill companion to that is SB 169. Neither of those have made it out of committee at this point, but that is expected in the coming days. A couple of updates for county-specific pieces of legislation that we're tracking that have developed after this report was compiled. The first is Senate Bill 34. This is the expansion of the Rural Housing Incentive District. That was passed by the Senate Committee on Senate Financial Institutions on 2/14. We're expecting to see that on the Senate floor next week. HB 2323, which is providing for an automatic detachment for land that is annexed by a city from a fire department, was heard yesterday in House Local Government Committee that we continue to be very interested in. HB 2330, which is increasing the amount of state money that is distributed to local health departments, was introduced earlier this week and has a scheduled hearing Tuesday in House Social Service Budget Committee. Finally, there are two companion bills, HB 2148 and SB 90, which is seeking to reduce the amount of registration and renewal fees that are paid when individuals go to renew their vehicles. It would actually result in a decrease of the average amount that is paid by citizens, but would increase the amount that would be retained by the county due to the state modernization fee being eliminated. That bill was, the Senate bill was being heard in Senate Transportation this morning, and the House version of that bill was heard last week in House Transportation. We're expecting committee action in the coming days.
Right. Commissioner Fast and Commissioner O'Hara.
Yeah, can you talk about the bill? Looked like it got hearings in the Senate to allow nonpartisan candidates to include such candidates' political party affiliation on the ballot. So like I could choose if I put my party on or not?
That's Senate Bill 210. That was just introduced on Monday. It does have a scheduled hearing on Monday in Senate Fed and State Affairs. I have not been able to review that bill text at this point to see exactly what the implication would be on the county, but we'll certainly provide further information on that.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Oh, thank you. So the ESG, the environmental social grade, would that impact, if this passes, would that impact the county's investment strategy for our reserves?
We don't see any county impact based off of current bill text. It is all aimed at state-held portfolios, specifically the Pooled Money Investment Board and CAPERS. We're not aware of any direct county impact, but are certainly watching that in case there are any amendments to that bill.
Okay, and how does the public find out if the county is using ESG as a guideline as to where they are investing our reserves?
I would have to defer to others, but I can certainly provide supplemental information.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Dapp, thank you very much for your work. We look forward to continuing to hear updates as we get closer to turnaround and hopefully the end of the session on time in Topeka. So thank you, Mr. Dapp.
Chairman, could I ask for a break, please?
Let's take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
just old. Arthritis. All my knuckles are enlarged because of arthritis, you know, and just.
Well, my body just hurt. We did all that walking, and then I went to the gym yesterday, and I'm just like, okay, Shirley, you don't have to do this overnight.
Yeah, yeah.
Chairman, we are ready.
This morning and
Waiting on staff
too
here.
much.
I apologize.
No problem.
All staff in their seats get a raise. That works pretty quick.
Well, you gotta get a majority vote.
I think Amanda's in for that.
All right. All right, I don't see legal counsel, but I think we're all right to continue. All right, so back on the record now. At this time, I know Commissioner Hare has submitted a request to add an item to a future Board of County Commissioners agenda. Ms. O'Hara, do you want to provide a motion?
Let me get my language here in front of me. I'm not sure that legal counsel gave me a motion. As it is submitted to all of the county commissioners, I do request that we have a committee of the whole to consider policies and procedures on reviewing tax increment finance districts. And as a guideline, the Chief Legal Counsel has provided what Sedgwick County has in place.
All right, so that's a motion by Commissioner O'Hara. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ashcraft. One thing I will note is that this process is no longer the process that Sedgwick County goes through. They have a new process that they go through with the City of Wichita as it relates to TIF districts. Out of 105 counties in Kansas, nobody is doing an affirmative vote for the creation or substantial modification of TIF districts. We always have the opportunity within 30 days from the date of public notice and hearing to veto it by providing an affirmative vote on every time this would come before any of the 20 municipalities in Johnson County, I think is an administrative and really a burden on the commission and creates a bit of an unfunded mandate. So respectfully, I'm not going to be supporting that.
Chairman Kelly, to clarify, I had instructed the Chief Legal Counsel to give me the policy as to how we can have a procedure in place that when a creation of a TIF district, and it does not happen, the creation of TIF districts do not happen that often. It is it's what we see on a regular basis is the plans within the TIF districts, and that is what is so numerous. We have statutory authority to veto tax increment finance districts, and that is my intent, that we have a cow to see if we can come up with a procedure that when a TIF district is created, that it comes before the board for an up or down motion.
All right.
If this language that our Chief Legal Counsel has provided is not clear on that, I apologize, but that is my intent. I want to have a procedure in place that when a TIF district is created, that we have, as per statutory authority, that we have a process in place that it is on the agenda and that we have an opportunity to vote up or down whether we're going to, it will be whether we want to veto it or not.
All right, and I think we understand that. It's Commissioner Allenbrand.
Mr. Chair, thank you, and I cannot be in support of this. We've had numerous mayors and chambers that have sent us economic development of different projects that has been very, very successful and made Johnson County what it is today. I do believe that this is each city votes their mayor and their city council, and it is their responsibility to make the decision with their constituents, and I don't think that we have the right to take that away from them. So I'll be voting no.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I cannot support this motion either because I believe we do get all of the information necessary that's available, which often there isn't a lot, but we get that information when a TIF district is proposed. And so we have the opportunity, if there is evidence that it's of detriment to the county, to take action at that time. But otherwise, I think it's first of all, a waste of our time, and secondly, as Commissioner Allenbrand said, it's usurping the authority of the cities. You know, I've said this a lot of times, but if someone feels very strongly about TIF, they should run for city government, not county.
Agreed. Commissioner Ashcraft, did you have your hand up?
Yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, you've not been the beneficiary of this ongoing dialogue. I'm sure you've heard some conversations that we've had over the years. There is a disagreement in terms of TIFs and how they're used and why they're used. From a county perspective, and I often argued this with your predecessor, if we are not at the table, we are on the table, and when cities make these decisions, they can have an impact on county operations. And my main interest and concern is that the county be afforded the opportunity to be on those discussions, because I believe there's even one tomorrow, or excuse me, next week on the agenda about providing ambulance service and co-locating. And if a TIF is developed that brings in housing or development and a fire station is needed and additional ambulance service is needed, that will have an impact on us. And this is the time to have those kind of conversations, whether it's ambulances or transit or the impact on criminal justice or public health, to have that consideration as the cities develop their TIF policies and implementations. It does impact us. I think the cities have a right to do TIFs, but I think we have a responsibility to articulate what the impact is on county government, potentially, or realistically, and absolutely.
No, and that's fair. And statutorily, we do have that opportunity. And so while I agree that it's important that we consider those when the projects come before us, that I don't know and don't agree that we need to have a process that is always affirmatively brought to us on an agenda. And I think that's where the disagreement is. Commissioner Allenbrand?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very quickly, I agree with what the chair is saying. And also, I mean, I reach out to my mayors, and they're more than happy to discuss, you know, what they're putting into place. So I still can't support this.
All right. Let's go ahead and, Commissioner Harrod, do you have another point?
Yes. So simply, I'm asking that we have a process in place that when there is a creation of a TIF district, and this does not happen on a frequent basis, it's usually the planned development within the creation, within the TIF district that has already been created. Lenexa has one next week on the 21st. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the creation of the TIF district. We are, as of 2022, we were diverting $30 million a year in Johnson County alone. There have been there's post-legislative audits on industrial revenue bonds and HPIP and PEAK, and all of these programs, according to the post-legislative audits, are not accomplishing what they had set out to do. And it is state statute that gives the county commission the authority to veto these. And I agree with Commissioner Ashcraft that when you are diverting county dollars, you are putting the burden on the rest of the county's taxpayers. This has not worked. The initial reasoning for all of these quote-unquote economic development incentives was to broaden the tax base, which would lower the taxes for all. It has not worked. Our taxes continue to go up and up and up. And it is responsibility of this board to at least let the public know where they stand on these tax incentives. And this is one that the state gives us the authority to veto. And we have not taken that responsibility seriously because I'm from the construction industry. And it is, in my opinion, the construction industry, the banking industry, the law firms for too long have had too much influence on the process, and that the Board of County Commissioners just have not stepped up and taken their responsibility. I'm simply asking that we have a procedure to put the creation of TIF districts on the agenda and have a vote. That's it.
Thank you. I think everybody understands the motion. I'll ask the clerk to go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fast? No. Commissioner Myers?
Myers, no.
Commissioner O'Hara?
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick?
Hanslick, no.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand?
Allenbrand, no.
And Chairman Kelly?
No, I have 2 votes in favor and 5 against. Is that consistent with your count?
That is correct.
Motion fails. Thank you. At this time, let's go on to commissioner comments. Let's start with the 4th district. Putting her on the spot. Commissioner Hanslick.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple items. One is last Thursday, we had the Library Board of Directors, for which I serve as liaison, and a couple of items of note that I think the board would be interested in. Is, first of all, over the next 2 months, the Johnson County Library Board staff is going to bring a resolution to the board in regard to selling the Lackman Library facility, so that will be coming up shortly. And also, there was a report, but no action taken on the consideration of changing policies in regard to fines and fees. Again, no action at this point, but the library board is looking at making changes in that policy. Secondly, had the privilege of attending the National Association of Counties conference in Washington, D.C. with 5 other commissioners this past week. Lots of great information, lots of helpful connections, and in particular regarding housing. Had the opportunity to hear from Deputy Assistant Secretary of HUD, Marion McFadden, about efforts at HUD to strengthen the home program policies as well as CDBG policies to provide more flexibility for local governments in how those funds are used. Also attended sessions in regard to childcare along with Commissioner Fast. Workforce Investment Opportunities Act provides a lot of opportunities for us to strengthen childcare. And then also, as Commissioner Ashcraft mentioned, we did have a one-on-one with HUD officials to talk about our CDBG funding and to look at how we can have more flexibility in that. So I'm looking forward to following up on those issues so that we can maximize what we are doing here in Johnson County in regard to housing and childcare.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner O'Hara.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to read the names of the people that spoke at the public comments. We are still banning the live streaming of those public comments. Hopefully in the future we will lift that ban, but the 3 people that spoke today was Ben Hobart on COVID, Galen Van Horn spoke on the out-of-control spending at the county in her opinion. And then Gary Morgan of Overland Park spoke about censorship.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Chair. Everything that Commissioner Hanslick said about NACO applies, or most of it applied to me. Great networking time in Washington. Also, the Hill visits, very interesting and educating. And so anyway, I was very happy to be a part of that. Also, the Kansas City Chiefs game was this weekend. And of course, we can't help but say congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs and all of the Kansas City metro area. What a great time. I attended the Johnson County Parks and Recreation District meeting last night, and again, a lot of wonderful things going on with JCPRD, and of course, everybody has the ability to go and listen to any of the meetings, but just things are really moving forward and going great, and I can now make my announcement that I'm very happy to see Gary Risto as my second district appointee to that Parks and Recreation Board, and I think he'll be extremely valuable to our board. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. Commissioner Fast.
Yes, thank you. I serve on the Environment, Energy, and Land Use Subcommittee for the National Association of Counties, and the first day was a full day of legislative priorities. I was excited that we were able to push forward a priority on composting. Counties like Johnson County across the nation are trying to deal with food waste and don't have the infrastructure. That was something I brought forth to our 5-year plan when I was on the solid waste committee, and so it was interesting hearing from counties across the nation and that the support needed on the federal level. Commissioner Hanslick and I met with the National Council for Mental Health Well-Being about mental health first aid. Johnson County has 7 accredited trainers, and also Johnson County has provided training for police, our school districts, but there's more to do and how we can work with Tim DeWeese on expanding that. I would like to work with my fire district on having my fire district trained by mental health first aid. So I'll be working with Tim, on that component.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I got a couple of things, and again, I want to say how much I appreciate going on this national convention, and several things that I learned was not all very rare to have AAA bond rating in counties. Also, how grateful I am to the staff and just talking to some of the other counties about their budget situation. And also the amount of money, millions of dollars that was spent during COVID. And I felt like that we had done a really good job compared to some of the other counties and what they're going through right now. I attended several things, also went on the Hill. One of the things in mental health on the 988 calls that the state of Kansas had decreased by 27%, and they were saying overall how much it's decreased and the amount of suicides, but the increase in calls, there's a lot of increase in calls, which is a good thing because it's preventing suicide. I also want to say that the airport, I'm pleased to announce, and I know people have different opinions on grants, but if we don't accept those grants, they're going to go somewhere else. So the airport is getting $1,553,000, $53,950 for grants, and that's in both airports. And I want to thank Aaron Otto and his staff for all the work. That was the other thing I learned. I guess I just thought you wrote a grant. Being involved in other, I didn't realize how much work went into those. And I heard that at the national level about how much work goes into the accountability tracking the visits on site, and so that's something that our staff has to do. And then also, again, on COVID, and I understand people have different opinions, but I try to also look at the other side. There are still people that want to be vaccinated and trying to be able to offer that to all constituents and how they feel. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't restate everything that was said about the conference, but I would like to point out one thing, Mr. Chairman. We had several staff that participated this year in sessions and helped with the entire event. But I did want to just take one moment and thank Mark Dapp. He is relatively new in that role, and he stepped up marvelously and just did an outstanding job. So I don't know who hired him, but he was a good hire. He definitely has presented himself at this forum consistently well, but under the stress of trying to manage 5 commissioners and a chair, much less a county manager, he did extremely well. So please share with Mr. Dapp my appreciation for his work. And Mr. Chairman, on somewhat of a lighter side, Tuesday was Valentine's Day, and some of us missed our sweethearts, and we'll go forward with that. But I don't know if you know that since 2011, the day after Valentine's Day is officially or unofficially known as Singles Awareness Day, and the acronym is SAD. I am not making this up. So fortunately, I'm not single, but I hope no one else was really sad that day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Ashcraft. And yes, thank you to everybody who helped organize the opportunity for us to go to Washington, D.C. to learn from some of the foremost experts as it relates to county opportunities, not only under existing partnership opportunities with the federal government, but also with unique opportunities of the day. I appreciated the partnership with the American Rescue Plan funding, especially the direct pay to counties. I'm looking forward to the opportunities on the Inflation Reduction Act with that direct pay model being considered for more parts of that piece of legislation, instead of having it be burdened by going through the state and then to the county. Having that direct pay opportunity to the county, I think will be not only expeditious in getting those practices authorized for our county facilities, but we can directly better provide services to our residents. So I'm looking forward to that, and I did want to thank Senator Marshall, Senator Moran, and Congresswoman Davids and their offices for taking the time to hear about our federal legislative priorities. We appreciate those partnerships. Additionally, wanted to congratulate, yes, Mr. Dapp, but note for the record that on February 22nd at 3 o'clock at the Doubletree Hotel, there's going to be the county employee recognition ceremony. It's amazing to me to see, in preparing for that, the list of how many people have spent more than 35 years in public service to the county, that they have dedicated their working lives to this institution. And I think that recognition and appreciation is well earned, and I look very forward to celebrating with them. I want to thank everybody for your diligent work today during this meeting. I was proud in the consent agenda that we're broadening opportunities at the airport, authorizing wastewater to move utilities, and then for the first time in 35 years, adopting a new code of ethics. I appreciate, while there were disagreements, the diligent work on moving on from the relationship with Evergreen, which is an item that didn't come without a lot of work and consideration, and all very good things that we've accomplished today. And so I appreciate everybody's help and staff's preparation for us doing so. I believe that's all the items on our printed agenda. We're going to take just a minute to allow the clerk to change the tapes, and then we're going to start with our Public Building Commission meeting. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.